What begins as routine footage from Jalisco on TikTok takes a turn that challenges our understanding of the inanimate. Jalisco was visiting a historical museum, documenting the wax figures and portraits that preserve the scariest legends of the region's past. The exhibit was supposed to be a place of quiet reflection, and nothing about that afternoon seemed out of the ordinary as he moved through the empty halls. Jalisco had no way of knowing that the history would look back. Take it all in, you are not going to want to miss this.
No, está perro este. ¡Ay, hijo de güey, qué pedo!
The recording reveals a lifelike wax figure of an elderly woman seated in a chair, whose head suddenly rotates with a fluid motion toward Jalisco's camera. The gaze of the statue seems to lock directly onto the lens, a physical acknowledgement that shouldn't be possible from a block of wax. Unmistakably present in the frame is a figure that was caught on camera being far more sentient than a mere display piece. The case for this being authentic rests on the absence of mechanical sounds or visible tracks that would suggest animatronics. The detail that makes staging seem implausible is the subtle human-like speed of the turn, which matches the movement of a living person. Critics of the footage zero in on the possibility of hidden magnets or a simple rotating base concealed beneath the chair's platform. The problem with accepting this as genuine is the fact that such exhibits often use sensors for interactive elements. Whatever haunts that museum seems to have a long memory, and Jalisco hasn't returned since that afternoon. Tell me in the comments, what exactly do you think that was? This video originates from Xmangaj's YouTube account, and the context makes it harder to dismiss. Xmangaj had been hearing strange noises in his house for several nights, and finally decided to document the disturbances. The recording begins in a quiet living room where everything seems perfectly normal, from the furniture to the lighting. He had no way of knowing when they started recording on YouTube that the atmosphere was about to reach a violent breaking point. The silence of the house was a lie. Watch this recording very carefully. Visible in the recording is a multi-layered escalation of paranormal activity that transforms a routine home into a site of violent kinetic energy. The camera picks up a heavy chandelier in the entryway beginning to sway with a rhythmic mechanical force while the lights overhead flicker in a pattern that suggests a severe electrical disturbance. As Mangaj moves toward the kitchen, the camera documents a second light fixture beginning to rotate and pulse with the same impossible energy. The recording reveals a final chaotic outburst as objects are swept from the counters and a heavy pot is thrown to the floor with enough force to send the recorder fleeing from the room. This movement has no physical explanation that holds up under scrutiny. Those who believe this is genuine point to the sheer weight of the objects involved and the simultaneous nature of the electrical and kinetic events. The detail that keeps this from being easily written off is the physical torque required to spin the ceiling dome. Skeptics, however, point to the possibility of high-tension wires and a modified circuit breaker designed to trigger the light failure, which makes the final crash of the pot feel like a calculated exclamation point. Xmangaj later said he didn't return to the kitchen for several days. Tell me in the comments, does this footage convince you, or does something about it feel off? The clip Ashley shared on TikTok looks ordinary at first. It was a typical evening, and Ashley was in another part of the house while her bedroom remained empty, save for her cat. The camera was set up for routine security, capturing nothing but the stillness of the bed and the furniture. But the silence of the room was about to be broken by a sound that made no sense. Watch what the camera caught and decide for yourself.
All right, so I'm regretting putting the camera up in this room. I know we did it so we could see if anything happened, but I didn't want to see anything. Okay? And my mom's coming this weekend, so she can't know about this. I was downstairs filming content, and I heard something upstairs, but I was like, it's just Coco. She's not down here. Coco's upstairs playing. All fine. But then I heard it again, and here's what we found. Here's what we caught on the camera. And I'm not okay. I'm either going to be moving this weekend, putting the house up for sale, but I'm not okay.
What the lens captures is the interior of a bedroom where Ashley's cat is seen reacting to a series of heavy thuds coming from inside the closet. Unmistakably present in the frame is the sliding closet door, which begins to rattle and shift outward as if something of significant weight is pressing against it from the interior. The cat remains in front of the doors, clearly alert, yet it never makes physical contact or leans against the wood to cause the movement. This movement has no physical explanation that holds up under scrutiny. The believer's strongest argument here is the distinct rhythmic thumping and the way the door bows under pressure, suggesting an active force attempting to exit the small space. Believers argue that animals are often the first to sense an intruder that hasn't yet fully manifested. The rational explanation most often offered is the possibility of a settling foundation or a specific draft within the closet walls that might cause a sliding door to vibrate, though they struggle to explain the force behind the outward push. Ashley later confirmed that the closet was empty when she finally opened it. Whatever haunts that house was only getting started. The clip that recently went viral looks ordinary at first. The footage shows a man standing at the edge of a dense forest at night, attempting to show his audience how his high-powered flashlight performs in total darkness. The woods appear empty, a wall of black trees that should hold nothing but the local wildlife. He had been recording for less than a minute when the light hit a trunk and revealed something supernatural. Every second of this matters. Watch carefully.
Definitely functional, but unfortunately I live in a city and there are street lights everywhere. But I can find a place to go test them. Okay, I found some really dark woods. I just put some tinfoil over the reverse lights. So I'm going to show you what the stock reverse lights look like, and then I'm going to uncover them and show you what the added reverse lights look like. These are the stock reverse lights.
Literally can't see anything.
And these are the ones I just installed. Look how friggin' bright that is. This is amazing. Yeah, so these are not just...
Clearly visible in the recording is the dark tree line at the edge of a property, where a pale, elongated arm is seen gripping the bark of a trunk. As the light from the flashlight strikes the area, the limb quickly retracts behind the wood, disappearing into the shadows. The movement is fluid and lacks the mechanical hesitation of a staged prop. This encounter captures the exact moment the recorder realizes they aren't alone in the woods. For anyone convinced this is real, the key detail is the length and unnatural color of the limb, which doesn't match the proportions of any local wildlife or a person in standard hiking gear. Believers' strongest argument here is the way the fingers appear to wrap around the trunk suggests a solid physical presence reacting to the sudden exposure of the light. Skeptics, however, point to the possibility of a person hidden behind the tree, waiting for the beam to sweep across their position. The case against this hinges on the convenience of the timing and the lack of a clear face or body. The darkness behind those trees holds a presence that was never explained. The investigation into what was actually watching that night is still ongoing. Don't leave just yet. We are pushing for 1,000 subscribers. I'd appreciate it if you hit that button to support the channel. Now, let's jump back into the next clip. On TikTok, Tristan posted footage that quickly became impossible to explain. He had been hearing persistent, aggressive knocking coming from his bathroom door and decided to document the disturbance. Even his cat appeared to sense the shift in the apartment's energy, refusing to go anywhere near the hallway. The recording captures a mundane domestic space that suddenly feels hostile and occupied. Tristan had no idea that opening the door would only make the situation worse. Look very carefully at what happens in the next few seconds. What nobody expected the camera to find was the interior of an apartment where the bathroom door handle is violently shaken from the other side. Tristan approaches with the camera, capturing the metal handle rattling in its housing with a force that would require a human grip. When he finally pushes the door open, the room is completely empty, the small space offering no place for anyone to hide. Unmistakably present in the frame is the immediate return of the activity the second the door is closed and locked. For anyone convinced this is real, the key detail is the speed and violence of the rattling, which doesn't match the rhythm of a loose latch or a structural vibration. What the true believers keep coming back to is that the cat's earlier reaction confirms that a presence was moving through the apartment long before Tristan reached for the handle. For anyone looking to debunk this, the focus falls on the possibility of a simple solenoid or a hidden cable system attached to the back of the handle, which would allow someone in the adjacent room to trigger the movement remotely. The sound of that metal striking metal remains the only voice in the room. What's your read on this, genuine, staged, or something else entirely? Leave it in the comments. Shared by JJ on YouTube. This clip documents a space that should have felt secure, a bedroom filled with personal achievements. It was after 1 in the morning, a time when the rest of the world is quiet, and JJ was recording the stillness of the room. The air was heavy, but there was no wind and no open windows to explain what the lens was about to capture. Everything was in its place until the silence broke.
Okay, guys. I just saw these metals. Look. Do you see that? Oh my gosh. What in the world? Oh. What? There's the metals again. That door just opened by itself. My house is haunted.
What the lens captures is a series of metals hanging on a wall, which begin to swing with a deliberate, rhythmic momentum that suggests a physical push. JJ's camera follows the movement, capturing the exact second a cap hanging just below them is knocked to the floor by an unseen force. What the frame reveals next is even harder to dismiss. The bedroom door, which had been resting in its frame, slowly begins to unlatch and swing wide. Frame by frame, you can see the door moving with a fluid, constant speed that defies a simple draft or a shift in the house's foundation. For the paranormal community, the evidence is clear. The coordination between the moving objects and the door suggests a presence moving through the room. Believers argue that the way the metals swing in unison indicates a direct application of energy. On the other side of the argument, skeptics point to the possibility of a hidden wire or the recorder themselves using a foot to nudge the door from out of frame. The skeptical case is built around the dark environment, providing cover for simple mechanical tricks. JJ hasn't slept with the lights off since that night, and the investigation into what he captured is still ongoing.
Oh my gosh.
This unsettling clip, posted on TikTok by Irbi Beksaud8, documents a routine check of a security feed that revealed something the eyes were never meant to see. The recording begins with a wide view of a residential yard at night, where the silence of the neighborhood should have been absolute. Everything appears mundane until a shape enters the frame that defies the laws of solid matter. The witnesses can only watch in disbelief as the monitor displays a visitor from another plane. Pay very close attention to what happens next.
छाया मात्रै छ कि यस्तो मान्छे कहाँ हुन्छ किन बस्यो है स्लो गरे है मैले फेरि धेरै स्लो हुन्छ भनेर छोडिदिन्छु इन्डस्ट्री मात्रै गम्बुट लाछ है मेरो गम्बुट रहेछ कपालले जिग्रिन कपाल जिग्रिन रहेछ ओ कपाल उड्यो यो मान्छे कपाल उड्यो छाया जस्तो छ हैन गम्बुटबाट माथि क्लियर देखिदैन नि केही पनि कपाल उड्दै गएको छ गम्बुट फेरि यो गर्दा कपाल उडेको जस्तो हुन्छ क्या अब त्यो क्लियर गर्दा अरु केटाहरु आउँछ सर्लकै देख्छ फेरि एकछिन त्यसलाई नि हेरौँ न त कपाल उडेको देखिँदो रहेछ साँच्चै.
Caught on film is a luminous, semi-transparent figure walking across the gated area with a steady, human-like gait. The camera picks up the figure as it moves past the fence, appearing as a white mass that lacks any identifiable facial features yet retains a clear bipedal form. What makes this hard to dismiss is the way the shape maintains its transparency even as it moves through the varying shadows of the yard. Believers argue that the fluid movement and the way the figure seems to glide just above the ground suggest a spectral manifestation of a residual haunting. For anyone convinced this is real, the key detail is the interaction with the light from the security system, which doesn't cast a shadow where a person should. Skeptics, however, point to the possibility of a lens flare or a reflection on the monitor's glass from someone walking behind the camera. Critics of the footage zero in on the low resolution, which often creates ghosting artifacts from insects or dust particles passing near the lens. The recording stops as the figure vanishes into the darkness, a reminder that the monitor has already told its story. Whatever was walking through that yard hasn't been seen since, and the investigation into the property's history is still unfolding. What Eboyi228 captured on Reddit that night wasn't supposed to be there. The terror began when a security monitor, the only source of light in the darkened office, revealed a presence on the stairs. The camera was focused on a space that should have been completely empty at that hour, yet the feed documented a luminous distortion that ignored the architecture. Every corner of the room felt like it was watching, waiting for the light to finally reveal the truth. Take a close look at what the camera picked up.
Ну так спокойно.
И что, на одном месте?
Мы все здороваемся с ним теперь.
Да, я ему говорю, привет.
Видишь ребенок?
Видишь, как ребенок.
Когда выходит на черное, его сильно вообще видно. Снимает. Иди сюда, мы же мы забыли вывести, это можно
вот,
уже на большой экран вывести.
Смотри, на большом экране.
Смотри.
Вот ходит, сейчас спустится, вон он идет, видишь?
Видишь? Вот здесь вообще как ребенок, смотри, да?
Капец, ты видишь? Ну, конечно, вот и в телефоне вот оно.
Captured here without warning by the camera is a white, semi-transparent, elongated shape drifting across the landing of the staircase on the monitor. It doesn't walk, it glides with a weightless fluid motion that defies a physical skeletal structure. The figure appears to stretch and compress as it moves, maintaining a luminous glow that doesn't cast a shadow on the walls behind it. This movement has no physical explanation that holds up under scrutiny. What convinces people this wasn't staged is the luminous nature of the form, suggesting an entity manifesting from a non-physical plane. What strikes most viewers as impossible to fake is the way the figure interacts with the grain of the security footage, appearing as part of the live broadcast rather than an overlay. Those who doubt it note the possibility of a lens flare or a small insect crawling across the camera lens, which would create a similar out-of-focus, semi-transparent trail. The figure disappearing from the frame leaves the monitor glowing with an empty promise. That location has more stories to tell, this was only one of them. This disturbing video, posted by Zachary on YouTube, begins in what looks like a perfectly quiet bedroom. Zachary had moved into the house only weeks before he started to feel like the silence was being shared by something he couldn't see. He was just trying to document the ordinary stillness of his new home when the room finally gave him a reason for his chilling paranormal unease. Everything felt exactly as it should until the atmosphere shifted. You're going to want to watch this closely.
I don't this house anymore. What? No!
The camera picks up a white trash can sitting in the doorway, which suddenly and sharply rotates on its own as if being kicked or spun by an unseen hand. Zachary's reaction is immediate, a visceral shout of terror that underscores the physical impossibility of what just occurred. Caught without warning by the camera, the object's movement is too violent to be attributed to a simple vibration or a shift in weight. For anyone convinced this is real, the key detail is the speed and torque required to spin a container of that size suggests a direct physical interaction from a presence that isn't visible. Believers argue that the way the bin stays centered while spinning indicates a force being applied directly to the axis of the object. Skeptics, however, point to the possibility of a string or a person hidden just around the doorframe, though the angle of the spin makes that difficult to pull off without being seen. Those unconvinced by the footage argue that a simple mechanical setup beneath the bin could explain the rotation. Zachary later admitted that the weight of the air in that room changed the moment the object moved, leaving him with a space that no longer felt like his own. So here's the question I keep coming back to. If that movement has a rational explanation, I haven't found it. If you have an answer, tell me in the comments.
What? No!
Caliente 90.7 FM uploaded this to Facebook, and what it shows caught on camera has no easy explanation. The recording begins in the quiet, hallowed halls of a temple, where the air is usually thick with prayer and reverence. On that evening, the space was supposed to be completely empty, yet the security feed documented a visitor who didn't enter through any door. The routine monitoring of the shrine took a turn that left the staff questioning the sanctity of the shadows. Let's take a look at the footage. Caught here with no room for ambiguity is a semi-transparent figure of an elderly woman walking across the center of the temple. She appears to be barefoot, moving with a steady, purposeful stride that ignores the furniture and pews around her. The recording reveals a form that lacks the solid opacity of a living person, yet maintains a distinct human silhouette that is unmistakably that of a grandmotherly figure. Documented here, whether deliberately or not, is a presence that seems to be retracing a familiar path. Those who believe this is genuine point to the way the figure's feet seem to brush the floor without a shadow, a characteristic often reported in hauntings of sacred spaces. For anyone convinced this is real, the key detail is the consistency of her movement despite the transparency of her form. Skeptics, however, point to the possibility of a double exposure or a reflection on the camera's protective glass housing. The counter-argument centers on the fact that such distortions usually move in sync with the lens, which isn't the case here. The floorboards carry a history that hasn't found rest, which means the temple staff is no longer truly alone after hours. If you have a rational explanation for what we just saw, I genuinely want to hear it. Leave it in the comments. Hidden Place's YouTube account has since been flooded with questions about this clip. The recording documents a routine evening in a kitchen that had recently become the site of several unexplained sounds. Hidden Place had been trying to document a draft they felt near the oven, but the house was preparing to offer a much louder answer. The recording was supposed to be a simple check of the appliances before the household settled in for the night. Keep your eyes on the footage.
I don't know, I saw something in the kitchen move. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed strange.
Yeah, but it's probably just the window's open. I thought I saw something the other night, and there's just that cross breeze from the window and the balcony.
Keep the camera open because I swear I saw.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh. Here, give me the camera. Oh my god! What the? Oh god!
Please, we just get out.
No.
Documented here. Whether deliberately or not, is the kitchen area, where the heavy oven door suddenly unlatches and swings wide with a violent force that sends the couple into a state of pure panic. The camera picks up the physical snap of the metal handle as it releases without any human contact. Captured here with no room for ambiguity is a movement that has no physical explanation that holds up under scrutiny. Anyone who takes this at face value will tell you that the significant weight of the door and the mechanical force required to trip the latch make a presence the most logical answer. Believers argue that an entity was attempting to manifest through the most solid object in the room. On the other side of the argument, critics point to the possibility of a high-tension wire attached to the handle, though the angle of the pull would have to be perfectly perpendicular to the frame. The heavy click of the latch remains the final word in that room. The residents reportedly left the apartment shortly after this occurred. If you have an answer for how that latch could trip on its own, I genuinely want to hear it. Shared on YouTube by a Dark Path Scary 7631. This clip documents a group of friends who entered a property known for its heavy, unsettling energy. They weren't there for a casual visit. They wanted to see if the rumors of a resident spirit were actually true. The recording begins in the dim light of the main room, where the silence felt like a physical weight against them. Everything was ordinary until the air in the room suddenly grew cold. Take a careful look at what was actually captured.
Is that you? If there are any ghostly spirits in this house, talk.
No way, dude.
Dude.
No way. Did that piano just seriously play by itself?
Do it again. Do it again. Do it again.
Oh, dude, we should get out of this. Oh my gosh.
Oh, man. Holy shit. Hold on. We came here to do...
The camera picks up a vintage upright piano sitting against a wall, its keys clearly visible as they begin to depress on their own. Unmistakably present in the frame is a presence that appears to respond directly to the young man's request for a sign, striking the keys twice during the encounter. The recording reveals the distinct notes being played, a deliberate sequence that sounds far too purposeful to be a mechanical failure or a settling of the instrument. This movement has no physical explanation that holds up under scrutiny. What makes this hard to dismiss is the deep resonant sound of the keys hitting the strings, which requires significant physical force. The case for this being authentic rests on the fact that the group is visibly shaken, and the movement of the keys is caught from multiple angles. Doubters consistently return to the possibility of a player piano mechanism or thin fishing lines attached to the keys from behind the casing. Critics of the footage zero in on the camera's frantic movement, which could hide someone operating the instrument from out of frame. The music stops as abruptly as it began, leaving the room with a silence that feels louder than the notes themselves. I've watched this more times than I'd like to admit, and I still don't have a clean answer. If you do, leave it in the comments right now.
Do it again.
Oh, dude.
The clip TX team shared on YouTube looks ordinary at first. It begins in a quiet kitchen where a large white cabinet stands against the wall. The space felt completely undisturbed, and the recording was meant to be a routine check of the home's stillness after hearing heavy, unidentified sounds from the hallway. TX team had dismissed the noises before, but that night the atmosphere in the room felt heavy. Nothing about the furniture seemed out of place. Here is exactly what the camera recorded.
What the heck? Oh my goodness! Like, what the heck?
That's spooky. That's spooky.
That is weird.
It's nearly midnight as well.
It is actually. Look. Oh my god.
It did it again.
What the hell?
It did it again. Look at the dog. It's freaked out. What is it?
I don't know. No, I don't want to.
Go see what it is.
I don't want to.
Go on.
I'm getting as far back as I can. I'm like against the wall.
It's stopped. It's stopped now.
Yeah.
Go see what it is.
No,
Go
it's
on.
scary.
Oh! I can hear a noise.
I can hear it. I heard it.
Go see what it is. Oh! Maxie, get it.
What is it, Maxie? What is it? Maxie, get it.
What?
What is it?
I saw it. It was going to come out. And then it went back in. Is it a bird? Is there a little bird stuck in there or something?
We don't own a bird.
Visible to anyone watching closely is the middle door of a large white cabinet suddenly swinging open and then slamming shut with a physical force that suggests a deliberate push. The camera documents the latch releasing and the wood striking the frame, a sequence that requires more energy than a simple draft could ever provide. The recording reveals the hollow thuds and scraping noises coming from inside the dark interior of the furniture, which persist even after the door has been closed. Those who believe this is genuine point to the dog's alert behavior and the sheer weight of the cabinet doors, making an accidental opening highly unlikely. The believer's strongest argument here is that the double movement of the door indicates a presence interacting with the environment in real time. Skeptics, however, point to the possibility of a person hidden inside the cabinet or a simple fishing line attached to the inner handle. The counter-argument centers on the lack of visible tension or shadows that would give away a manual setup, which makes the subsequent heavy silence feel like a reminder that some things in our homes don't wait for permission to move. TX team later said they felt a physical pressure in the room. So tell me, what do you think was in that cabinet? Leave your take in the comments. The footage from Zachary, Jalisco, and the cabinet captured by TX team serves as a chilling reminder that the spaces we call home are often shared with something supernatural. From spinning objects to haunted furniture, these moments remain scariest examples of unexplained recordings. That wraps up this one for Pale Playback. Subscribe so you never miss an upload, and if you think what you just saw was unsettling, wait until you see what's on your screen right now.